Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Introduction to Goverlan WMIX webinar. My name is Ezra Charm, and I'm sitting here with Raul Ortiz, our VP of Support. And we're going to be taking you on a tour of Goverlan WMIX, our recently relaunched free tool for exploring WMI, creating queries, and doing some other cool things. We want to show you how to use it, how to navigate, maybe even plant the seed about some of the really powerful systems management you can do using this free tool. I'm going to do a quick introduction before I turn it over to Raul. Just give you a little bit of background on Goverlan. Give me 1 second here. Just to give you a little bit of history on Goverlan, we were established way back in 1998. And our first deployment was for a very, very large bank. And then since then, we've been scaling down to serve all the in-house IT companies out there, enterprise IT, anyone that has an in-house IT team. We have over 7,000 companies in 110 countries using Goverlan across 17 different industries. And we are very, very well-liked in the Spiceworks community and other communities as well. This is a little intro on Raul, who will be speaking today. Raul comes from a background of systems administration, and he came on board to help push the Goverlan message out to you guys. He was using Goverlan at a previous employer and really knows the product back and forth, really is an expert in everything Goverlan. So I'd like to introduce this slide just because you know, I think it's something that we all feel as IT folks and system administrators, and it actually comes from a thread in Spiceworks. The thread topic was, "What don't you like about IT?" And I exported the thread, I guess, into Microsoft Word, and then just did a count for how often different words came up. And the two words that came up most often were users and people, and that really justifies the need for remote administration tools that minimize the end user interactions with the people who are trying to keep the business running. So with that, we're going to jump into a quick demo here and show you some of what WMIX can do. I'm going to turn it over to Raul. Raul, you can take it from here.
Okay, all right. So hello, everybody. I'm pretty sure I've spoken to you guys at some point in the past. Everybody gets to know me over some time. So I'm going to help you guys get a little bit familiar with WMIX. We're going to do a demonstration to make sure that we can show you all the little ins and outs about WMIX and how to actually use it and utilize it to its fullest potential. So with that, I'm going to kill our presentation slide here, and we're going to go right into it. So here, everybody should be able to see the WMIX screen. I'm going to go a little bit about the UI really quick, just so you can know how to browse around and see everything that you need to. So the first thing we're going to notice here is that we're definitely going with our tabular interface here to make sure that you can manage multiple systems at the same time. Some of the other things you'll notice about the UI is that we have a little favorites column here. This allows you to organize the machines that you wish to dig deep into and figure out how it is that you can manage the machines. So you can keep a little favorites here. This favorites view is Active Directory integrated. So on your system, you can come in here and do something like add new container and add an AD container. So feel free to pick your favorite AD container so you can do some management of those machines. So for instance, I'm going to take production, workstations, and I'm just going to grab that container and call it our lab container. So now what we've done is we've added a container here that's an AD container. Of course, you can do static and also IP range. That'll allow you to choose, other methods of having your machines in there. So before I begin to go any further, I just want to make sure that everybody has an understanding of what they're looking at here. WMIX is a WMI browser. It's going to allow you to access the WMI repository that's stored on your Windows machines. WMI is the Windows and the Microsoft implementation of the SIM standard. Some stuff that you can go ahead and feel free to look up on Wiki. A lot of boring information there to basically say that it's a repository of information that administrators can tap into and report from or execute tasks on machines. Now, typically, WMI is something that you can access through scripting or programming, but since there's so much information in there and it's a really rich repository, we decided to give you an easier way to access WMI so you can get to the information that you need. So with that being said, I'm going to connect to our first machine here. I can go ahead and double-click on any one of these machines in my favorites view, or I can use the connect button here. And the connect button will allow me to enter a machine name to access WMI remotely for that machine, and also provide some credentials if my credentials are not enough to browse the repository. So the first thing we do here is we give you a few panes to actually view some information. Once you're connected to the machine, first you'll notice we have our tab, which tells us which machine we're connected to. We have a little tree view of information. This tree view demonstrates all of the things that we decided are very common and things that people query very often, such as printers or system information. This browser view is customizable. You can add custom objects to it for things that you access often. Also, here on the right side, this pane here gives you some information about the WMI object that you happen to be looking at. This information here is actually pulled from the repository itself. The repository contains descriptions on the classes and methods and all the different parts of it within the repository itself. So we actually just pulled that straight from there, which is nice. And then you'll also see here if you have any task, such as WMI methods, which are codes of execution you can actually do something with. Also some reference web links in case you want to read more on that specific instance. So those are the little pieces of the browser. Oh, actually, there's one other. I wanted to show you the trace pane here. The trace pane is going to show you every time you double-click somewhere, WMIX has to run a query to retrieve the information. It's actually going to show you the query that was run to retrieve the information that you're double-clicking and executing. And this is a good way to get familiar with how WMIX and the WQL, which is the Windows query language, can actually pull information. So this we're going to get to in a little while into some more detail. So let's go ahead and just kind of take a look at some of the things that we can pull from a machine through WMIX. So right now we're remotely connected to this machine here. It's a Dell workstation. So we can go ahead and double-click the computer system node, and it's going to give us what's called the WMI instance, or it's going to actually tell you what machine has the data that you're looking for. So here, once I double-click that, if you notice on the right, here on the right side, we have some tasks that we can perform. Now, these are called WMI methods. Methods are things that you can execute to actually do something. Now, this specific class, which is the computer system class, has some methods called join domain or workgroup, rename, or unjoin. So you can actually come in here, select rename, provide the values, and then hit execute, and WMIX will execute the method, and it will go ahead and execute that action on the machine that you're focused on. Another nice part of this is that you can export this as a script. So what that does is it exports the method information into a script that you can use. You don't have to actually know anything about this script except about how the WMIX scripts work. And here at the very top, we give you the ability to just add the script and the target machine as an object, as an argument to this script. So that's a neat little way to save a bunch of scripts if you want to hold them and they do different tasks here and there. So this available task section is always going to change depending on what you're focused on. So for instance, if I go to software products, this is a very popular one here. What WMIX is going to do is going to query all the software products on that machine and bring them back to us. Now, just so you know, querying software products through WMI is an intensive process. It is a little bit slow. This will populate in a second here. So while we're waiting for that to go, I just want to mention something here. If anyone has any questions for us, feel free to add them to the chat box. And if you can, we'll go ahead and answer all the information there. So, again, feel free to put in any information in the chat box if you have any chats that you want to, or any questions. So here we've queried all the software products that were installed via MSI on this machine. It's important to note that this is MSI only. Unfortunately, WMIX only works with the MSI method as far as installing or querying the machines there. However, a decent amount of even EXEs that you have today are just MSI wraps. So that's, you know, you're probably going to find a decent amount of information here. So back to what I was saying, if you go to each one of these software products, you can see the task that you have available, which is uninstall, upgrade, which is just like going to do it in control panel, to reinstall or install anything. So that's one of the main things to know about using the browser view is that it in fact will allow you to expose all of these admin tasks that you can perform. So in any one of these, we can go ahead and either uninstall something, like I'll go ahead and do an uninstall of this here just so you can see what it looks like. This method doesn't take any parameters, so I'm going to hit execute and OK. So right now what WMIX is doing is it's calling the uninstall method and allowing WMIX to actually remove the software. So in a second here, the screen will refresh so we can see that. So I do have a question here. Did I see that you could show the code that was used so I could copy that code into PowerShell? Yes, that's the trace pane down here. Now, the trace pane is always going to show you the select statements and anything for queries. It's not going to show you the code for methods. However, if you do want the code for method, you can just click the method here and click export as a script. Now, this here is a VB script, so you're not going to probably want to use this right away, but the method parameters are in here. Now, it's also worth noting for this here, I actually got the green light to say this, in the very next release of WMIX, we'll also be exporting as PowerShell scripts. So here we typically just export as VBSs, but in the very next version, we'll be doing exporting as PowerShell scripts, and that'll be along very soon. So pay attention, the next couple of weeks to see that release. So again, here's just some information about browsing. I mean, you can really spend all day here looking at so much information, like, for instance, operating system. So here, I'm exposing the methods for operating system on the side, which are some shutdown and so on. And the deeper you go into these things, you can find some really great methods and different query properties. So another feature of WMIX is the ability to right-click on these nodes and report on the properties of them. So I've asked WMIX to give me a report on everything it knows about the operating system. So for this instance of the operating system, it's telling me the WMI properties for that instance. Now, these are not things that we've decided to put in. This is the actual query from WMI and what WMI has. So, for instance, here we've got a country code, we've got the OS name, we've got some information on memory. You can really explore this all day and just come up with tons and tons of information. So, the point of that is the ability to right-click any instance that you have there and select Report Properties. And also the script generator, again, will allow you to script the information that you have so that you can create nice VB scripts and, of course, in the future, PowerShell scripts that will allow you to just simply pull this information right in the command line. And then you can use other tools if you have to dispatch those scripts as you see fit. So that's basically the browser view here. Now, you can, again, spend all day looking through this stuff here. I mean, there's tons. Actually, let me go over one that I really like. Here is the network adapters. So double-clicking network adapters has given me the network adapter instance for what's connected. And then on top of that here, we can enable and disable this adapter. We can also report on its properties. That way you can get some really nice network adapter reports as far as things like MAC address. And this is really the hardware level for this guy here. But if we dig a little deeper, you're going to see that underneath the instance, you get some categories. And these component settings and dependent settings are really how WMIX works, or WMI, I should say. WMI is a relational database, so there will be some parts that relate to the main instance, and they will come in the form of associators, and that's what you see here. So this is an association between the network protocol itself and the adapter. So if I keep digging into this guy, we can see here we're getting down to the bits and pieces of how this adapter works. Also for network adapter setting, this one is a pretty nice one as well. If we come here to configuration, just look at all the things that you're going to be able to do on the configuration of that adapter. So we can change things like setting the gateway, or enabling DNS, or specifying the DNS search order. So these are really some great things that you can dig into to get some information. So that's a nice one that I like to take a look at. So now we're going to leave the browser view. We're going to go even further into WMI. And we're going to actually do view by the namespace. So what these namespaces are, you can kind of see them as individual databases. And these individual databases contain all of the classes, which I like to kind of liken to a database table that WMI has to offer. And now every time you install a piece of software that has some big components like HyperV or Intel vPro clients or SCCM clients, they're going to add a WMI provider and the namespace in here. So this machine really doesn't have anything special. Let's jump to one that might. I'm actually going to switch gears here and go to this other machine. Now this machine I just happen to know is an Intel vPro machine. So what that does is it exposes this Intel ME, it exposes the namespace. So when I double click the namespace here, we get things that are specific to this technology. So for instance, here in the ME system class, I can get some information specifically for Intel vPro. So for instance, get capabilities. If I wanted to run this, what we can do is send this to the browser view. So if I do add class to browser view, it's going to send me back here and expose the available task. Then I can click on it and execute. So in this case, if I wanted to know all of the capabilities of this Intel AMT chip, if anyone's familiar with vPro and AMT, this will expose those capabilities for me. So I can get a report of any machine that I have vPro that supports KVM, for instance. And of course, we got our friendly export as a script button that always comes in handy. So if we jump back to the namespaces, it's not only about the simple namespaces like SimV2, which is really the root of everything, we give you this browser view to see it the nice way, but if you go into SimV2, for instance, you're going to notice that all of that stuff that we're looking through in the browser view is derived from SimV2 and all of these classes. This one might take a little while because it's pretty big. This is basically the main hub for all of those classes. So in here you can see all of the Win32 classes, which is WMI specific stuff such as Win32 computer system. That is an exact representation of what I did here. So as you can see, you have the same task. But if you're into getting into it a little deeper, this is where you go. And of course, you got your right click, and you can query the instances or generate your reports through here. So this is really nice, especially when you're into not only what Windows can do, but what other software adds to the top of this. I'm going to give you one other example, which is probably a great one here. If you target a machine that has HyperV, for instance, I'm going to attach to one of our HyperV servers here. Oops, wrong thing. And I'm going to show you some of the nice little methods that you can find in there. So, okay. I'm going to show you some of the nice little things that you can have for your specific product. So I'm going to do open as here because I know this is a non-domain machine, so I want to be able to supply the username and password. I'm going to log into it locally. And so now I'm connecting to that HyperV server. Oh, I think I got the password wrong. That's what this is telling me. Right, okay. Okay. Let me jump here. There we go. Okay. So now I'm looking at the namespace for, I'm going to drill down to virtualization. This namespace is added when you add the HyperV role. So again, if you're really into digging deep with WMI, it exposes everything that it knows about HyperV here. And one of the really nice ones is MSVM computer system. This is a catalog of all the VMs that are running on that machine. So if I do query instances, WMIX is going to tell me the information about each instance. Here I can go to properties for the instance and take a look at the server, the VM's name, the state of the VM, if it's running or if it's in hibernate and so on. Now, again, don't forget you're looking at this in terms of WMI, and WMI is not always friendly. So here, 2 might not mean anything to someone, but you can do a quick search on this class, and you'll find all the information that you need. So here's one example that we can do. Let me choose this machine. Here's a VM that I might want to restart. So let me just show you how you would do that here. So here we can do request state change. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to send this over to the main view before we do that. This is just for browsing. That's why. So I'm going to add this to the browser view. Jump over there. Double click. And here are my instances. Each one of these represents a virtual machine. So here I can do request state change. And if you look up the states, you'll see that I believe 2 would be power on. So I can do 2 and then hit execute. And what that would do is it would boot up the VM. So if you were looking at the VM console, you'll see it says starting, and it'll go ahead and execute. So again, if you need to really dig deep into HyperV, that would be the class you want to use. Now let me talk a little bit here because I see we have some questions about the actual some of the great features that you have around this kind of stuff. And we have one is, can you search the namespaces for the objects or properties or methods? And you definitely can do that. If you hit search here, you can type in a search for MSVM and then do search. So here what we're doing is we're searching virtualization and we're looking for any class, object. You can also add methods and so on to search for here. So we have our search and we can go ahead and select it, and it's going to take us to it here in the namespace and class view. Another question is, can you export a script for setting properties and executing methods? Yes, you can, and that's just something we had demonstrated earlier. So if you grab, for instance, here, request state change, export as script. What you're going to do is you're going to set this to a value and then hit export a script, and the script will execute that value. So that's basically how you're going to want to do that. So if we move on a little bit, the very last namespace I just want to talk about, and I'm going through just some of these namespaces to jog your brains a little bit to make sure that you understand how this can be expanded. And the very last one I'm going to go into is, let's try this guy here, is SCCM, for instance. One thing as an SCCM admin that always drove me nuts is that it's difficult to trigger the SCCM client to do something on demand when you want it to happen, as opposed to letting it go through its poll cycle. So one day I decided, let's go into WMIX and see if they add anything, and they do. This CCM namespace exposes all of the information that you're going to need about the SCCM client itself. So if I jump down to, let's say, SMS client, this is the main class that you're going to want to know about. I can come here and do evaluate machine policy cycle. So everybody knows, anybody who's used SCCM knows that you go to the machine control panel and then you tell it to update itself so it can get its latest task. Well, you can do that right here through this through these methods. And you can tell it to do a bunch of other stuff as well. So that's just another idea of where you can get some of this information and what you can do with it. So next thing I'm going to jump to is Query WMI tab here, which allows us to generate WQL. And this is really great for you guys who are using PowerShell and you want to get that get WMI object query string in there because you know that's where the information is that you want to use. Or if you're into managing SCCM and you want to make some query containers, or if you want to do something like a GPO filter. Anywhere you can use WQL, you can actually generate the code here and just pop it in there. And I'll give you some examples of that. So for instance, if we wanted to generate some WQL to do anything that we want to do, we can click this button here, select the class that we want to query the information from, such as computer system. This is probably the most used class there is. And if it's not in this list, you can go ahead and add other classes here, do a search and pop it in there for you. So let's say we selected computer system. I'm going to click next. Here are all the properties in the computer system class. So in this class, we can decide if we want everything or if we just want a few pieces of information. The caption is always good. That'll give you the name of the machine, or the DNS host name is fine as well. If you want to query, let's say, the system time on it, so we'll grab that. Is it part of a domain? You can grab that, or it's power state, which is the last one. You can grab that as well. So I'll go ahead and click next. Here we did find the filter. So anyone who's familiar with SQL or Windows Query Language, this is where you get your where clause in. So I can configure a query filter here, click next, and here I can add my my filters. So for instance, I can click add and say I want to retrieve that information from any machines whose boot up state is equal to normal boot. The last, or maybe not. Maybe I want to know the last time somebody did a fail-safe. This is what's it called? Restart into safe mode. That's what this means here, fail-safe. So anytime the last machine did a restart into safe mode, maybe. Again, I'm just kind of throwing these at you just so you can see what you can do here. So I'll click that, and then I might actually want to expand my where clause a little more and decide the domain is equal to that domain, or something like that. We can switch this to an and or an or, and we can really get creative with this here. So let's say we did or, and then I'll click finish. Here's our WQL right here in the middle. And if I click this button here, it throws it up into the execute window. And you can really just copy and paste this part right into any script or anywhere you want it to go. And we can actually run the query here for testing. In this case, I don't have any problem with failsafe, or right now we're focused on this machine. So this applies to this machine, and so on. So here's where you can grab your WQL. You can pop this right into your get WMI object in PowerShell. You can put it into your SCCM query or your GPO filter, or anywhere else you can use WQL. Another nice little feature about WMIX is that it remembers your recently executed, so you can jump back and forth and test things out. Like here's one, select caption and install date where the product is like Adobe. So if you want to find all your Adobe products, that's a great little query to run. Some of the other nice things we have is our report templates. So for instance, we can generate reports based on the machines in our favorites view here. So here we have report Adobe installation. This is one I created earlier today. You can do something like some of the pre-built ones here, like general system information. If you want to add any of these, you can click add. And in your report, you can either add a whole object. So I can do something like, add a whole object of computer system. And it'll just give you everything that's in that object. Or what you can do is actually add a query to it and have a specific query. The specific queries, you want to make sure you get them right first in your WQL in the tab there. And then after that, once you have your queries ready to go and it's giving you the information you want, you can add it to the report view. And I'll show you what some of those reports look like. Just let that finish. Okay. So you can go ahead and, of course, add information, create your reports. And let me just show you really quick what that looks like. So if I have my reports in my template, I can come right here to the top of my container, select report, general system information, system devices, and so on, or any reports that I had imported there. You can also do, cherry pick the ones you want. So you can do something like this. In this case, I'll do these three because it's important to know WMI is inherently slow. So doing a lot of machines is going to slow things down. So I'll do general system information. I just want you to see what the report's going to look like. I get to choose my report location and target. So I'm going to let it rip through those guys there. And this generates HTML reports. The HTML reports are flexible. They can you can search through them and so on. So we'll go ahead and show you some of that as well. And let's just let it run through the last machine. So like I was saying, WMI is by itself, it can be very slow. So this is just kind of the nature of the beast. There's not much you can do about it beyond this. You'll notice anyone who's done any PowerShell, when you run the WQL query, it always adds a few seconds to your script execution. But we can, of course, talk about, other ways to get this information in a little bit to speed it along. So here's our report template. This machine here, I'm going to select it and see what information it gave me. It gives me all the properties of each class that I've added there. So we have here computer system. Again, tons of details in here. Lots of stuff that you can, figure out how to get to. And of course, as I said before, these are searchable. So if I wanted to, any of those fields there, I can do X64. Well, there's only one value in this one. So it's not going to really show us much. Yeah. No, it's that one. These are 1 entry per machine on those tables. Here you go. It's something that's a little better. All right, so this is a good one here. This has to do with some updates. So if I want to look up update 249 or an update that started with 249, there's your update. So it kind of filters through it very quickly. So those are some of the great things about WMIX. It allows you to really get into WMI and browse it and explore it to your heart's content. Get creative with some of this stuff. You can really, generate some nice funky scripts that do some really great things. That's basically what it comes down to. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop the questions in the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer them. Right now, I think I've answered all the ones that are there.
Sure, and I'll just jump in here and mention a couple of things. First of all, WMIX was a tool that was built by our in-house development team to facilitate the development of our for-sale products, the products that we sell, which are obviously a little bit more friendly to, I guess, the casual IT person. And we leverage WMI very extensively to make our products work, as do a lot of other ISVs in like that client management space. So this was really built for our developers to go and explore WMI and create the scripts and queries and everything else to make our products work. And when when we were looking at it afterwards, we thought like this would really be a great tool for that really in deep systems admin who's wanting to go and expand their knowledge on WMI and take advantage of it without sitting in front of a little console screen all the time. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the really cool part about WMIX is it's something we use in-house and we use it to develop our products.
We do have one other question here. I have nested OUs. How can I see objects in the containers in those OUs without adding every OU? That's a good question. Right now, we just support the ability to directly add an OU. However, what you're probably better off doing, if you just want a flat list, is do add container and use the subnet. That way, it'll just scan your subnet, add all the machines in there for you, and it will resolve the names for you so you can see what they look like. That's probably your best bet as far as gathering all the machines in one shot.
Just to continue, if anybody else has questions, feel free to enter them into the chat. We also have a forum for this product. It's on the Goverlan.com site. Feel free to enter any questions there. Our support team monitors it all the time, and we're really eager to help people get great use out of this free tool. So I think it's really powerful. I'm sure for those of you on the demo, you would agree. I do want to take a minute just to point out our paid products in case anybody's interested. Raul, you want to bring up the PowerPoint again? Yep, there we go. So we do have a full suite of products available. Like I said, we leverage WMI quite a bit in developing these. We're in, I guess, the remote administration space, almost like the RMM space, but more geared towards those in-house IT teams. So the full suite of products that we sell were sold per license or per administrator. A lot of products in the space are charging you per node or per end user that you're supporting, but we're really focused on per person that needs access to the Goverlan suite. And we have a couple of different options here. The administration and diagnostics piece is kind of a behind-the-scenes management, almost like what you saw with part of WMIX. You can add or remove printers, add and remove drives, deploy software, a lot of different common everyday tasks that you might want to do, query very comprehensive information about your environment. And admin and diagnostics is kind of a one-to-one scenario. It's where you are helping one specific user. And if you wanted to bring that out into global configuration management and really deploy software across your entire environment. Like I said, our first deployment was something like 50,000 seats, but if you wanted to do 10, 20, 30, 100, 10,000 seats, you would use scope actions, and it's a mix of a actions tool where you can perform tasks like deploy software, printers, drives, everything like that, but you can also get a lot of the reporting that Raul showed you today. So you can report on software assets deployed, or user login, log off history, or pretty much if you can think about it, you can report on it. And it's got some really nifty features in terms of scheduling these reports and scheduling these actions and things like that. And then we have a remote control product, which it's a great remote control product, and really powerful. Has some great enhancements, including a monitoring view, which allows you to watch like 10 to 50 machines at once, or however many you want, with some performance counters. So it's really cool. Cool thing about our paid products is we offer a free, unrestricted, unlocked 30-day version for anybody to try. So if you haven't taken a look at it already and you like what you saw in WMIX, take a look at our full suite. It's not going to cost you a thing other than a bit of time. It's really, really powerful tool set. The trial is exactly what you would get if you purchase the product from us. The only restriction being is it expires after 30 days. So take a look at it and evaluate it. We do have some demo videos on our site as well at Goverlan.com. Just to advance to the next slide. Just to give you an idea, we queried some of our existing customers just to get an idea of the ROI they were getting. This is kind of conceptual, but people really love our products. Like I mentioned, the Spiceworks community is very gung-ho on it, and they're a picky bunch. So, we feel very good about that, and it's something that we strive for, is to have happy customers. I know Raul and his team works really, really hard in making sure that customers' questions are answered quickly and people understand how to use the products and get great use out of them. Just in terms of things you can do next, you can get that free unrestricted 30-day version of our full suite at Goverlan.com. I think most of you have WMIX already. That's why we're all here. But we'll take any other questions you guys have. You can reach out to us afterwards. We'll also be sending out a recording of this session. And if there's we really appreciate everybody stopping by and participating today.
All right. Well, so thanks again, everybody. That's our brief into WMIX. It's, again, one of my most favorite things about Goverlan is WMIX, and it really allows you to get kind of creative and develop some really great solutions without having to get elbow deep into some scripting, but it gives you the flexibility if you wanted to. So, again, go out there, try it, do some great things. Let us know how it works. Go to the forum, post some ideas, get all into it, and thanks again for coming.
Post some success stories with WMIX. We'd love to see that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Of course, you can always reach out to us at Goverlan.com/support. You can click the Contact Us button there, and that'll get to us right away. Or feel free to call us or reach out to us on our chat box that we also have on the site. Thank you very much, and have a great day, everybody.